I'm joined by Lars Guldstrand, CEO and Director of Cindrigo, ahead of the company's listing on the London market. Lars, it's great to have you on. An exciting week for you, I'm sure. Congratulations on the listing. How are you feeling about it all?
No, that's of course fantastic to finally have come to this point, and we really look forward to a good starting point for the next phase of the company's development.
Great. So, with this being the first time you've been on StockBox and possibly many of our viewers' first introduction to Cindrigo, perhaps a good place to start would be with a quick introduction to the business. Could you give us the elevator pitch?
Yeah, no, Cindrigo, it's renewable, clean energy, base load energy developer, but also operator, owner. And our main focus today is in the geothermal market, where we have relatively large assets in Germany for geothermal, both producing heat, power, and lithium. We also have assets in Finland, which is a ready-built waste-to-energy plant, forestry waste that we incinerate, and also produce heat and power. Power, both in Germany and Finland, is planned then for the local grids in each of the countries, and the heat is either for district heating or for the process industry. And lithium is to carve out from the well and the brines from the wells in the geothermal, and then lithium hydroxide for the battery production, primarily then in Germany, related to the car industry.
Okay, great. That's a pretty unique offering. But before we go more into the business itself, I think the wider story, that need for baseload energy, is really interesting and perhaps something many are not aware of. So am I correct in thinking the issue here is not only that the world is shifting to clean energy, but also that energy needs generally are growing as well?
No, and I think if you look at it from an energy perspective, that the geothermal energy is what you would call a base load energy. Today, there primarily in Germany, especially, there is primarily fossil fuel. That's the base load, oil, gas, or other things. And the geothermal is then a base load energy that you then complement with peak loads from wind, solar, and other things. So there is a huge demand all over, I would say, with the increase of electricity need, but also in particular in Germany, replacing the fossil with a stable, solid 24/7, 365 days a year energy production. So it is definitely a large market where we see a good growth coming, and in particular in Europe and Germany especially.
Great. So is there a large geothermal market already in Germany then?
Large, no, it's still a small portion of the total energy sector, but given the need for clean baseload energy, the German government has set a target for some 10 terawatt in the coming 5 years here of new geothermal. And that's also why the government strongly support the development of geothermal clean baseload energy, where they both support in funding, in grants and subsidies, as well as the long-term power contracts. We have contracts that's 3-4 times, I would say, an ordinary market price to support this development. 20 years contract with prices of €250 per megawatt hour, which gives us a both attractive from a financial perspective, but also, of course, from the environmental perspective.
Right, yeah. So all that support means it's an excellent sort of area to be a smaller emerging player like yourself, building a position in the growing market. Right. So returning to Cindrigo, can you tell us a little bit more about the assets you have, perhaps beginning with Germany and then moving on to Finland? Are they what stage are they at? Are they already generating power, generating revenues?
Germany is in an earlier stage, that's the preparatory work before going into drilling. And that's also a part which is strongly supported by the government. So they cover half of our development cost right now. And then the plan is the resources we have in Germany is 125 square kilometer or 12,500 hectares of license areas. Resource assessed approximately 400 megawatt. We have an operational plan for 300 megawatt. And what we then do is that we drill one well for production. You have another well that you re-inject what you get out. And so you have two wells, and then you build on surface for district heating or for process industry, the lithium extraction. And then the second phase is that we then build it for power generation. So each such unit, I would say it's approximately some 50 million investment, and whereof you have pretty much 20 million subsidy from the government on top of the very favorable long-term cases. And we plan then to build some 10 such units on the areas we today have licenses, 3 different licenses in the Upper Rim Valley just south of Frankfurt. So that's in a development phase, and we hope then to go into drilling next year, and another year you will be in production, and then a continued growth for 5-6 years of this development on these licenses. In Finland, it's a ready-built plant, a large 110 megawatt plant, ready to get started as soon as our main customer to take the heat from this plant are ready with their construction of a pellet factory in close vicinity to our plant. And the power in Finland, that we're ready to deliver to the grid, but that's a combined production of the heat and the power. So when we start the plant, which we plan in the latter part of the year, then when our customer is ready, then we will also start to sell electricity to the grid through Nord Pool, who is the trading platform in Northern Europe for electricity. So these are the two main assets today. Of course, we hope to add additional projects, both in geothermal and other sectors, both in Germany, but also other attractive markets in Europe. Our focus is initially on Europe and to have a solid governance and well-functioning low country risk on our projects.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that your target is to reach capacity of 0.45 gigawatts in 26 and 1 gigawatt in 2030. So will that power generation, that will come from those two main assets and perhaps expansion at those main assets? Yeah,
because the asset potential on our current assets is, as I said, some 300 on Germany and another 100 on Finland. So that will be 400 today already under our, let's say, control, or what you would say, under contractually at least. But of course requires development to finalize it.
Great, yeah. And that lithium element on top of all the power generation play there is really interesting to me. Is that sort of a separate opportunity then?
No, I would say it's integrated, because when you drill, as we would do then some 4,000 meters, and to get the hot water and brine, and it's in a very lithium-rich area, so you get the lithium up with the brine, and then you separate it before you re-inject the water and the brine into the mark. So, and then the separation then is then sold further as an hydrogen dioxide.
Great, yeah. So it's another opportunity for revenues there on top of everything else. So the listing this week, can you tell me a bit about the thinking behind that? Is the goal here to, get access to that capital that will help you expand at those two main assets?
Yeah, I would say it's not the capital in itself to start with, because we just raised a smaller amount, some 2 million, to get to the listing, and more of, I say, validating the price and so on. So we have the cash to run all the working capital, the development projects. Finland is fully financed, ready, and all repair work is done. But of course, we would require capital for the drilling and the development in Germany. And as I said, each such unit, the first phase of heat is pretty much 50 million, but where you have a subsidy of the government up to 40%. So you would have a net cost of some 30 million. Our main EPC provider is also taking on that 70% of all their equipment and engineering cost is deferred to 6 months post the operational start. So during construction, we have a 30 million requirement, and we'll pay their 20 million with a subsidy we're getting from the government. But of course, it's still 30 million we need, and you don't, with the 2 million, don't get far on that 30 million financing. So we definitely will go out in the market and raise primarily debt financing. That's also why Germany is so attractive, because the German government are preparing to both underwrite on the funding and primarily ensure the drilling, so that you lower all risk on the drilling. So if something would go wrong, it would be insured. So with that stability, our operating plan Finland, that's primarily, if I'm a bit negligent to their business, because it's brilliant, of course, in itself and has a good value, but its cash flow supports, of course, the funding and makes it easier for us to go out and raise that capital. And it's in the light of this that the London listing comes in, that when we discuss the funding going forward, of course, it's a huge difference if we're a small private company or if it would be a company listed on any of the trading platforms like an AIM or other things. But now we are on London, main board listing, equity shares, commercial segment, the highest quality on regulatory requirement, governance and structure, brings a high degree of credibility from the holding company, its cash flow in Finland, and then with the support of lowering the risk with insurance. So we will then work, and from beginning of next year, we hope to then go more into the debt funding to secure. And if you want to do 10 plants like this, you're talking then about 500 million over the coming years. So of course, the platform with London listing as a core is very important in that perspective. So that's more important than the imminent short-term cash raise.
Yeah, definitely important to have that foundation in place, isn't it? So from an investor perspective, I mean, the plans are really ambitious and it sounds like they have huge potential. Long-term investment opportunity, are there any other companies that you can sort of draw comparisons to give a sense of the scale of the potential like revenues and profits that can be generated by this style of business model?
Yeah, I think it's relatively simple to look at it from a revenue perspective, is just to look at the megawatt potentials, and it's 24/7, so it's some 8,000 hours a year, and then you on top of that, we know the electricity prices, we know pretty much the heat prices as well into this. But size-wise, of course, in the US, you have some players like Ormat, you have Vulcan in Germany, Australia, that also have a larger lithium angle probably than us. But these are, of course, two very interesting companies that's been successfully in developing these kind of projects.
Good stuff. And finally, what are some of the key next steps maybe that investors can expect to see updates on through the coming months and into the new year once listed?
I would say in the short term, of course, to us, the first milestone is the listing in itself. But then thereafter, we will, as I said, start our operation in Finland around year end is the plan. We're a bit dependent on when our customer is ready, but they have informed that they plan to be ready in the latter part of the year. So that's where we're going to start Finland. And before that, of course, there might be some announcement on that progress and development. But the short term, I would say the start of Finland. There is also the extensions of the German licenses. Next larger step, I would say, is the funding for the first plants in Germany mid-early next year. Next step would then be latter part of the year when you get into the drilling, and thereafter continued development on these projects on the coming year of the So short term, I would say start Finland funding and get into the drilling. Mid-term is to continue that development. Long term is, of course, when you go back to that we will be able to not only grow the 10 plants in Germany, possibly with other projects as well that would support the continued long-term growth.
All right, busy couple of years ahead then.
It is.
Great. Well, it's been great to learn about the business. Congratulations again on the listing, and really looking forward to catching up again soon. For now, Lars, thank you again for your time today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.